Hi there, I'm Deb Gemmel of Deb Gemmel Mods, and I'm a designer of any gauge and gauge-free patterns. So this time what I've taken on is that black box, which is here between the cast on for the neck and the underarm bottom of the yoke. And so I wanted to take on a circular yoke, and I had yarn. I'm always stash busting, so I had yarn in my stash. I had 2 balls of this for every 1 ball of this. So I decided to do a circular yoke using 3 colors where 2 colors are the same. Unfortunately, this is what I had. But this is my prototype of I'm calling it the 12-point circular. So here's what I have done, and I've started on my sleeve. And can you see where the increases are? I think you can. There. So there's 12 points where the increases are set up. And quite frankly, I did this because I have 3 colors and I can increase every 6 rounds, which will give me more or less the amount of increases I need for my circular yoke. So what I do is knit a prototype and write the pattern as best I can. And then, because the prototype takes quite a bit of I think I know what to do, and I do it, and then it doesn't work, and I rip it back, and I have to think another day, think about it, and come back and make an adjustment to the pattern and do what I have now thought up I should do, and back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So I am going to go put this on so that you can see how. Before I do that, I wanted to show you that I did underarm shaping. Can you see? Can you see that it goes in and goes out again? So what I did was across the front, I decided I needed a bit more extra across the front. So in the pattern, there's a modification at the back that you can do that adds 12 stitches across the 12 stitches across the front, so that the front is 12 stitches wider than the back. What you're actually doing is working more increases across the front and less increases across the back. So the back is slightly narrower and the front is slightly wider. And then I did decreases here on the front to take away, I did 4 sets of decreases on both sides of the front 4 times. So I did actually take away 8 stitches off of the front, and then I did my hip shaping. So that suits me. These are modifications. They are the last 2 pages of the pattern, and you can do them or not do them. It's totally up to you. So give me a minute. I'm going to go try this on. I'm back. So I think now that it's on, let me give you a little look at it. So there we are. I'm glad to have one sleeve started. And I think I'm gonna make this long sleeved. And I think now you can see the increase points. So there's 1 on each shoulder and then 5 on the front and 5 on the back. And I do give you a mathematical step-by-step way of deciding how many stitches are between these 5 yoke markers. There, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I am very happy. I think now you can see my waist and hip shaping right here. Now, because of my strange way of writing patterns, This is a prototype. So there are several things with this one that are not quite correct. First of all was my yarn choices. You can't see the helical part of working with the one round colored stripes because two of the colors are the same color. So very difficult to see. So the other thing that I do usually is knit a second one once I have started writing the pattern. So here's my second one. So again, working from my stash. So there's the teal, and then there's can you see it? There's a green and then a gray. Again, not really easy to see the colors, but I'm working with my stash and I had enough to do this. This is hemp cotton from Hemp for Knitting, and I've had this in my stash for a long time. And I thought it's about time I tried it. I have a little more trouble with plant fibers. I'm not used to using them. So I thought it was time to get them out. Now, what's really interesting is how these increases, which are actually holes, come out looking dark. Can you see? There's holes, but they come out looking dark, which does something to the colors, which I think is kind of fascinating. That's the thing with helical knitting, you're never quite sure what you're going to get. So I'm almost to the bottom of the yoke on this one. And I have made many changes to the pattern, and I think that's why I'm really happy that this one is almost to the end, because now I've finished with the modifications and anything I wanted, changes that I needed to do to the pattern from this one. So for the major change I made to this one is it starts with an I cord, and I made this as big as my head. So this one I made 24 inches long, and now that it's been knit, it is bigger than that. A little too big, I think, but it's a springtime sweater, so I think it'll be fine. So this one I did slightly stretched to go around my head, and I think that that's a better neckline. There I did the short rows that you can see, and again the 5 yoke markers are here, and although this one had 11 stitches at the beginning between the yoke markers, this one has 8. So that's the difference in the gauge and the difference in the neckline. So I think for this one I picked up 136 stitches, and this one 100. So this is the one that's in the pattern because it's truer to what I in the end wrote. And my prototypes are the ones I usually wear all the time because they're kind of fun and they're good memories too. So that's the circular yoke, and I'm calling it the 12-point circular yoke, and I have loaded it up on Ravelry, and it's a free pattern. So you can go in and download it and knit while I'm knitting this one, which is going to take me a little bit of time. Yeah, so you can come along for the ride. I'm going to talk about splitting the sleeves off and all the stuff that I've already talked about, but that's my standard philosophy for sweater knitting. And this is, of course, any gauge. So this is a different gauge than this one. This is 5 stitches to the inch, and this one is 4.5. Both of them helical, and I wrote the whole pattern helical just because that's what I'm doing. And you can, of course, knit the whole sweater in one color if you really wanted to. You would have the yoke spokes, and that would still make a really nice sweater. And if you haven't done an any gauge sweater before and something that's not written stitch by stitch, that might be a good way to go, one color. So since my process is to write it, to do the prototype, to rip it back, to do it again, to work on my pattern, to do the next part. There are days when I can't go forward because I haven't quite figured out what I'm going to do. So then I tend to knit something else. So it's not enough that I have 2 adult sweaters on the go. Since, to keep the theme, I started knitting here it is, the Lunenburg pullover. I'll put it in the notes. I forget who it's by, but the Lunenburg pullover, because still circular yoke, so sort of in the same idea, but this is a stitch by stitch, and I actually find it really restful to do the counting from a chart. And once or twice a year, I have the urge to do color knitting, and this is my urge. So this is what I knit. Now, the Lunenburg, I cheated a little bit, so I'll tell you about it. The Lunenburg is done in the Bohas style, which is a Swedish, the women in Sweden knit this style of sweater from 1939 to 1969 to make more money for themselves. And they sold them to boutiques and that sort of thing. So it has a certain look to it. One of it is that they don't do sort of, not symbols, but recognizable shapes. It's more of a color progression. So they have a couple shapes that show up over and over. This is one of them, which you will find in their style of patterns, and this is another one. They knit them in an Angora-based yarn so that they were rather fuzzy, which we don't do too much Angora work anymore. And this would have, this pattern has a main color, which I chose dark gray, and 4 contrasts. That means you can see all the color changes. That means you have a lot of ends to knit in at the corner or at the top of the shoulder where they change. So I decided to combine the 2 lightest colors into one. And so I had this gray, which goes from light gray to a yellowy gray, which I think you can see see the yellow there? That's the light gray, going from light gray to yellow, back to gray, back to yellow, and then you can see it there, yellow and gray. So I used one color for the 2 light colors, and then 2 other contrasts, a gray green and a teal. You can see the 2 of them there. And then your main color, so that makes up. So that saved me some ends to sew in. This is Briggs & Little Durasport, 1 singles, which I am finding really nice to knit with. It's rather rustic, but it's going to be a really nice sweater. What do you think? I'm loving it. So I am to the waist on this one. So I am doing my regular waist and hip shaping for a casual sweater, which for me is to knit straight down to my waist and then do some hip shaping. So that's where I am right now. I'm going to start the hip shaping right there. So I'm happy with this, but what that does is give me, at this point, lots and lots of stockinette stitches and 6 sleeves to knit. So I'll tell you what I'm picking up next week, because all this stockinette stitch, I will need something else to keep me occupied with, away from it, give me a break. So that's what I'll be doing. I finished my family crew neck rainbow sweater. I will put that up on Instagram because I got a little picture of my grandson in it. So that one's finished. And I finished some helical socks, helical 3-color socks, which I have already given away. So I didn't save very much to show you finished objects, but I am counting this as like pretty close because I started on the sleeve. The other thing I wanted to tell you just about this sleeve is if you measure a bunch of your sweaters, you quickly get to see what you like. And I like 2 inches of ease on my sleeves. But on my body, I wanted more. So I actually cast on here 2.5 inches to give me 5 inches of ease around my sweater. So when I went today to pick up for this sleeve, the pattern says to pick up 1 stitch for every cast on underarm cast on stitch, that's a normal, but that would give me a little bit too much extra ease on my sleeve. So what I did was I picked up, starting in the center, I picked up 1, I skipped 1, I picked up 2, I skipped 1, I picked up another 1. So I picked up 4 on this side and 4 on that side, which is 8 stitches from the 12 that I cast on to give me the 2 inches of ease I need for my sleeve, because my sleeve ease is different than my body ease. So these are things you can do with your with a raglan and with a top-down circular yoke. You can decide, you put a certain number of stitches on your needle and then decide how much ease you need. You can also pick up extras in the corners if you need more ease than you want on your body. So all of these changes I will go over them over and over with every sweater that I do, but that's what I did on this one. I went from the cast on of 12 down to 8 stitches for the cast on pick up off of the cast on for my sleeve, so that I will have a sleeve that suits me, that I like, because I knit a lot of sweaters for myself and I have a pretty good idea of what I like. So that's not very long, but that's what I'm doing right now, and I am cruising through my Ravelry library to see what I might do for a bit of a break from knitting 6 sleeves. But I'm very happy with this prototype, and I am using, this is the end of what I have in my stash. I think I might have one or two left. So that's a good stash bust for me with this Wellington fibers that has been in my stash for a long time. So I'm happy to have it into a garment that I can wear this spring with a t-shirt, and it'll be great. So thank you for watching. And if you want to go pick up the pattern, it's on my Deb Gemmell Mods Ravelry store. So enjoy. Talk to you next time. Bye.